So yeah, I think fiat is the real roots of our problems. We see clearly that something got really broken in 1971, and then we saw the delay effect of this new monetary regime that is completely centralized and is completely against the honest people. And I think as of today, we are witnessing a transformation of this system that is no longer sustainable, in my view. It will be the largest, probably, wealth transfer that I see over the next decade will be from real estate. And it's much better to be digital, it's much better to be without friction. If you denominate, once again, in US dollar or is in euro, it might go up in price, so you think it's a good investment. But if you denominate in gold, they are not doing great at all. And again, if you are a true Bitcoiner and if you want to speculate or if you want to trade or you like equities, I think MSTR makes sense. But it's not Bitcoin, because correlation is a big part, but it's not 100%. And again, it's an equity, so you have all the risk associated with equity. You have fraud, you can have bankruptcy, you can have losing trust in the management team, you can have some financial gimmick, as you said, something that is not disclosed, you can have plenty of stuff. If you have Bitcoin in your cold storage, you don't care.
All right, guys, we are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages. This is the Real Hard Money podcast. If you could, please hit that like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. It doesn't cost you a thing. And if you do, Satoshi just might bless you with some sats under your pillow. Today we have a special guest. Ladies and gentlemen of the podcast fam, Real Hard Money fam, please welcome to the podcast, Marco Battistoni. He's going to murder me, but
that's correct.
Battistoni.
Great.
Please welcome to the pod, Marco Battistoni, a dedicated Bitcoin absolutist, a free thinker, and equities analyst, co-host of Escape Velocity podcast. He's passionate about the Bitcoin army. I didn't know you were part of the army. And he's transformative the power of Bitcoin, BTC. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Marco to the podcast. How are you, sir?
Thank you, Khalif. And I'm blushing for this introduction. Very cool. Thank you. So I think all of us are in the Bitcoin army, to be honest. Someone started way earlier than me. Someone started after me. But we are all in the same journey. So at first, you want to understand what this Bitcoin thing is. And then the more you go down into the rabbit hole and the more you understand how interconnected and intertwined with all the other metrics that we have in life. So from social, from the finance, the pure finance play, how money works, how politics works, and what's the real hidden problem of our modern society. I think the more we study, the more we go into it. So it's a fight sometimes. So I like to feel part of an army of people thinking in a kind of different way and be more skeptical and be more open-minded about it. So thanks for having me on the podcast.
My pleasure. Yes, us Bitcoiners are we're pretty special breed. A lot of free thinkers, a lot of open-minded people. When you meet a real Bitcoiner, not a crypto guy, but a Bitcoiner for real. Free thinker doesn't just digest whatever the government or the media gives them. You know, usually there's a lot of overlap in the people who didn't take the jab, for example, that C9. But so let's take this time to tell us a little bit about yourself, Marco, what you got going on, and how'd you come to become a Bitcoiner? What's your story?
So my story, very briefly, I was working for almost a decade into traditional finance. I started as an accountant and for like major corporation doing auditing and accounting services. Then middle of my career, I moved into Luxembourg, which is a financial hub for Europe. And then I was a senior financial engineer for a Big Four firm, providing big services and analytics for funds, for big, M&A operation, etc. And I've been very in contact with this traditional finance and the gurus of the space. And something growing inside me of something that was not really aligning with my purpose. And I think COVID accelerated everything. So in 2020, I was already in Bitcoin, but in 2020, when I think globally we were worried about COVID, we stopped. We couldn't go to work. We had like life completely upside down. And so for me, it was really the first moment in which I really stopped from the mania, from rushing from every place, to just, focus on what's going on and try to understand deeply things and be more skeptical, because this thing was, I don't know, I felt something was odd, was weird. So I don't know, it started as more research. It started as more study more Bitcoin, because I was already very interested into it. And then, from there was just a crescendo of interest into Bitcoin, and I wanted to be more active part into it. And so in 2023, end of 23, I decided to quit my job and go full time into Bitcoin. So now I'm very happy that I can collaborate with major Bitcoin organization only in the space. I'm doing Bitcoin equity. I'm a Bitcoin equity analyst, so I'm trying to bring my expertise from corporate finance and my traditional finance background now into the Bitcoin equity space. And sometimes I'm very contrarian, so I'm not the one that is say, yeah, just buy the dip on everything. I was quite cautious on all this Bitcoin equity trend with, especially some valuation on some micro cap companies that maybe we can discuss later on. But yeah, now I'm 100% of my time dedicated to Bitcoin, and I think was the best decision in my life, at least for a, career perspective.
Right, right. Yeah. And also maybe even a spiritual perspective.
Yeah, probably now becoming more, more mature. Yes, you're right. It's not easy, to be honest, because sometimes, especially at the beginning, the Bitcoiner journey is quite alone. Maybe now in 2025 it's easier because there is start to be more mainstream, but in 2018, 2019, when I started, it was very, very a lone journey, even more so in Italy, even more so in my circle of friends. Nobody from my, co-worker or my friend in the office, everyone looked at me like I was the crazy guy. It was like kind of out of the schemes. So yeah, at the beginning was kind of complicated, and you need to reassess a lot of things on yourself. And yeah, and I think on the long term, it will also affect you kind of spiritually in changing your perspective over the long term, changing your spending behavior, changing your maybe priorities in life also, at least for me. So yeah, I agree with you. Is also this kind of different perspective. It undergone with me as well. So
Yeah.
that's fair
It's
to say.
changed your life. Safe to say.
Yeah, hopefully for the better, but yeah.
Okay. So as a free thinker, what's your take on fiat systems?
Well, it's a big topic. To be honest, I studied finance in the university, and during my 5 years in finance classes, to be honest, I think nobody explained me how really money works, how really the system is designed. And I learned much, much more from, Saif Dinamus, from Lynn Holden, from, the Robert Breedlove, from the folks that have been working, studying relentlessly into the Bitcoin space since 2015 and after. So yeah, I think
Is that
fiat
when
is
you got in 2015?
no, I entered in 2018.
18. Okay.
And I think for me was one of the best podcasts that I heard was with Robert Breedlove and Michael Saylor. I think was the first,
Taylor series.
yeah,
Yes.
the Saylor series in 2020, I would say. And then the books, yes, I have some books on my back here. And of course the book from Saif Din was kind of my big introduction into the space. So yeah, I think fiat is the real roots of our problems. And if we see like all the charts, financial charts, and other metrics since 1971, which was actually the start of this new experiment, we see clearly that something got really broken in 1971. And then we saw the delay effect of this new monetary regime that is completely centralized and is completely against the honest people. We saw this, unfolding very, very rapidly in the next decades. And I think as of today, we are witnessing the end of not necessarily the total end of it, but a transformation of this system that is no longer sustainable, in my view. And we start to see different opinions about what's going to be next. Back to the gold standard, I think it's very, unreasonable because it already failed back in 71 because of, gold is difficult to move around. It's very hard to verify if it's true or not. It's not very expensive to do the safety. It's an old kind of technology that worked very well in an analog world for millennia, but is not really what's needed for a modern society that is moving fast, that is moving at the speed of light in terms of information and in terms of capital flows. So yeah, I think we don't have many other option rather than accepting that maybe Bitcoin is more than a digital money online, that is more than something created by cypherpunk or nerds on the other side of the internet, but maybe something that is very useful for billions of people and scale up on this big massive problem that all of us is facing every day. So I think, yeah, the real problem is fiat and the optical illusion of fiat, especially on investment. I have so many friends in the investing side and they cannot understand the denominator is wrong. If you denominate with euro or if you denominate with dollars, every kind of investment vehicle sounds good, sounds performing, sounds legit. But if you denominate in gold, you see a different reality since 1971. Gold outperformed the S&P 500 since 1971, which for me was a shocker when I saw this data.
Really?
It is, yes.
Really?
Maybe I can. Really, yeah. Let me see if I
Is
can
that
find.
your favorite chart to share?
Yeah, let me see if I can find the exact chart I'm talking about. But since 1971, and if we compare the two, we will see a totally different story from what we should expect and from what actually happened. Maybe I have it in my X.
I wouldn't have expected that since, it's just been a boom bull market for the past 40 years in the stock market, really, even though it has crashed, quote unquote, crashed. But it's just been up and to the right, generally. Those were just secular local bottoms and crashes. It just continues onward because of the money printing and the.
Yeah, no, that's true, but the real story is quite different. Let me see.
Is it when it's measured in gold?
Yes, when
It's a
it's
different story.
measuring gold. Yes.
Right.
If you see the S&P 500, I have this in mind. S&P 500 in USD terms since 1971 is up like 6,000%, which is insane because it's like a 60x. But then if you price instead of the denominator instead of the dollar using gold, you see that it's down 21%. Meaning that if you hold gold spot from 1971 up to today, actually you overperform the S&P 500. Now, I'm not sure if in this index, in this S&P index that I selected from, was included or not the dividends, which we know for like a major time frame like 50 years, you have the compounding effect. But still, I don't think even with the dividend inside, you can overperform gold for the same period of time, which for me was insane coming from finance and seeing that gold overperformed the S&P which is the global index for 50 years was a shocker for me. So
this
now,
is what all the gold bugs say, right?
correct. And that's why, because in 1971, of August, we all know, most of us know about the Nixon call to temporarily suspend the convertibility of dollars into gold. So de facto exiting from the monetary system connected with gold and just remove it and move into the petrodollar system and move into a different regime. And if we take this date, which was for me like the key one to understand why fiat is broken, we see this distortion. So the problem is the denominator. If we use the correct denominator in gold, we will see a lot of different perspective in terms of investments. And my thesis is Bitcoin is, for me, superior to gold.
Of course.
So if we use this new denominator now, maybe it's reasonable to say that Bitcoin is overperforming most of the traditional stocks, all the bonds, most of commodities, etc., because it's superior to gold, which was already superior to the S&P index. So that's for me my macro thesis as of today.
Okay. All right. And so Bitcoin being superior to gold, how would you define a Bitcoin absolutist? What is that to you?
Yeah, for me, it's this thing. So start to think not in dollar terms, not in fiat terms anymore, but start to denominate things that you want to buy, things that you want to invest in Bitcoin or in Satoshi, depending on the size of it, and start to really think about this ratio that for me is crucial. Because, for example, if you have like consumerism or very easy spending, you cannot understand that maybe, the 200 euros that you spend in 2018 for these stupid shoes, if you put in Bitcoin was, I don't know, like X. So I don't want to say that you need to become like a monk, not spending, not at all, but thinking about what's really adding value to your life and what's not adding value to your life. What's adding value to your life? Yeah, go for it. You need to have a comfortable life. You need to spend for your family, for your friends, etc. But all the things that you really don't need, if you study Bitcoin, you start to have this mentality, this psychopath mentality maybe sometimes, and you say, yeah, I don't need this. I can postpone it maybe, and I want to buy Bitcoin now because we are still in the early phase of the adoption curve in my view. So if I sacrifice a bit of pleasure today, I can have a much greater pleasure in the future. So I like to call myself like this because I use it as a denominator Bitcoin, and I try to minimize excess spending or useless stuff, trying to maximize my BTC exposures.
Yeah.
I think
It
in
makes you
modern
think,
society,
really think.
yeah. And again, in modern society, we have like all these advertisement running like 24/7, social media pushing one against each other for like the fancier lifestyle. Someone in Dubai, someone in other place. You want to have like new fancy car, new laptop, new everything. And again, that's for me not the real source of happiness.
Right.
Maybe was before discovering Bitcoin like 7 years ago when I was fully fiat minded. I was having this kind of approach. But today I realize, no, I want freedom of my time. I want to be financially independent. I want to be doing or travel when I want and do what I like instead of having, a fancy watch at my wrist or a nice, I don't know, car for like impress other people. So I think coming back to your point, it changed you spiritually, it changed you on the way you think for a much longer time frame and longer horizon.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a friend who I've been trying to get into Bitcoin for years. I mean, 8 years. I mean, since I started. And he's always like, yeah, I get it. I understand. I think it's going to do everything you say it's going to do. I wanted to get to Bitcoin back in the day, but now it's like too expensive. And at one point it was, and he's very much into watches, right? And at one point, one Bitcoin was equal to one Rolex, and he wanted to buy that Rolex. And it was about $7,000. Bitcoin, 7,000 for the Rolex. He bought the Rolex at 7,000. And where are we now? Over 100,000. Now the Rolex has a very healthy aftermarket, and it does appreciate greatly. 2, sometimes 3x. It's not 10xing, a standard is unless it was, a 101 or super special edition. It's not 10xing, and it's not going to have the potential to 20x and 30x later like Bitcoin does, right? And it's also all of the qualities. It's ephemeral. You can't touch it. You can bring it anywhere you want. You can take loans out against it. It's property, digital property. They can't confiscate. If the federales rolled up into his house, they can take his watch, his cars, everything, right?
Sure.
So this is how he lives. He lives very much. He loves the luxury things. He has a Porsche. He has an old school Mustang. Has 2 old school Mustangs,
I think it's
right?
beautiful, this old school Mustang.
I do too. I think it's the most beautiful car that ever created, honestly, especially the 70s, late
Yeah.
60s, early 70s, American muscle and Italian cars. Now that's why you have the good taste.
Yeah, we share good taste on cars for sure.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, even though American cars, there were a lot of Italian designers. I heard that they use for the American muscle cars. So, but now look where we are. Sure, he has these assets, but honestly, they're becoming a lot of liabilities. Like his cars always have a problem. He's always in the shop with them. It's always draining his pockets. And in the same way, real estate owners, that it now it's a money pit, really, when you have a house. I used to own a house. I used to pay $10,000 in taxes every year, and all the unforeseen costs of it, right? And what do you think about that, real estate versus Bitcoin?
Yeah, man, I think it's again, it will be the largest probably wealth transfer that I see over the next decade will be from real estate. And I was thinking about for like years now, because I was already into real estate or thinking about, because real estate, you see, you can renovate, you can do now, short-term renting, you can do long-term renting, you can try to, maximize the revenue stream, etc. But still, the problem is, first, as you said, all the maintenance cost, all the risks associated to real estate, to tenants, to people that are not paying. You might have every 1-2 years like big expenses to do extraordinary measure to renovate the house, etc. On top of it, the real estate, if you denominate once again in US dollar or is in euro, it might go up in price. So you think it's a good investment. But if you denominate in gold, they are not doing great at all. So you're spending a lot of time, a lot of effort. You take a lot of risks for something that is not even keeping pace with the appreciation of hard assets like gold. And again, you have all the risk associated to it. So again, for probably a decade or more than decades, it has been like the best way to store wealth. But I think nowadays a lot of smart people and new people are recognizing to the fact that it's no longer a viable use case. And it's much better to be digital. It's much better to be without friction. It's much better to don't have these recurring problems. And yeah, for me, I see most in traditional investor and especially in real estate that if they are smart enough, they start to question their portfolio. They start to question the real gains on those portfolio. And they might consider to do some allocation into Bitcoin. Of course, not selling everything, but maybe to gradually try to maybe, instead of doing a new house or a new set of houses, maybe just buy one Bitcoin with it and try to diversify and see maybe over the next 5 years how is going to be the performance of my real estate plus Bitcoin portfolio rather than only real estate. And they will see probably a much greater returns, with less effort, doing this hybrid scenario. The only thing that for me it's really still very appealing for real estate is that you can you can lever it up, you can use mortgages, you can use finance, and maybe we can argue that financing a house is like the lowest interest rate possible because the banks have the collateral in the bank, is a well-established market. So I think it's still very appealing real estate because of the leverage, because you can just put 20% down and 80% via the bank. So actually you risk only the 20, but still on a overall metrics, they are bleeding against gold and they're even more so bleeding against Bitcoin. So I think young entrepreneurs in real estate will be forced to think into first an hybrid model and then maybe realizing that Bitcoin is superior. So maybe go 50-50 and then eventually 100% into it.
Right. It's all going to come down to keeping up with the Joneses, like you were referring to before, when their neighbor is, telling them, hey, they're at the country club. I have my portfolio of houses. I dumped 5 houses and I just bought Bitcoin and it's outperformed and that's so much less headache. And, when your neighbor's outperforming you,
Yeah, you start
that's
to question.
a big incentive, right? And then there's also the refinancing of the mortgages, right? Like a lot of people are getting interested in using the refinancing of the mortgage to buy Bitcoin, which is kind of like that dual hybrid you're talking about.
Mhm.
And I think that's going to be a way for people to dip their toes into the pool or the ocean, you know, with. And then by the time that matures, you'll have the Bitcoin and you'll have the house that is now worth more money as usual. Maybe it'll increase at 12% or whatever a housing
In the
increases at.
US, in the US, my
Right.
friend.
Right. So
Yeah.
when Italy, is it more or is it?
It's very city specific. So Milan and Rome, you might have like 6, 7, 8%. But in majority of Italy, we are still not recovered since the great financial crisis in 2008. So
Wow.
imagine if you have a portfolio of houses bought in 2006, and on a nominal basis, not even in real terms, in a nominal basis, in nominal price, in most of mid-size and small town in Italy, the price did not recover yet to 2008 without considering all the inflation and all the problems. So in Dubai, it's working. In some city in the US, I'm sure it's working the 10, 12%. In London, it might be working, but in majority of other cities, especially in Europe, not at all.
Wow. Wow. I didn't know that. See, it's great to talk to people around the world. Italiano. He knows the market over there.
And again, in Italy, we love to buy real estate because for us, real estate is like the safe haven, is like the best investment possible. And again, we are 60 million in Italy, more or less. If you remove people from Milan and Rome, which are like, I don't know, 5 or 6 million, maybe some other city, Venice, of course, like the most touristic one, let's remove 10 million people from the equation. 50 million are like from small town, mid town, etc. And I tell you, they did not recover, most of them, the 2008 prices, but we are in 2025. So it's a big problem. It's a big problem.
That's shocking to hear. Let's take 1 second. I'm going to put this headphone in. It might disrupt the feed, but stay on if it does. But you're back, right?
Yeah. I can hear you clearly.
Okay, awesome. Okay, cool.
And yeah, Khalid, if I just may add one thing that to what you just said before, which was really interesting about the real estate, the refinancing, etc., the hybrid model. I think again now as well in the US you have this major developer like Grant Cardone and others trying to say to the public, look, we have like a major portfolio of, I don't know, 1,000 properties in Miami, etc. And still we want to explore this hybrid model. We want to have cash flow generating from the real estate, but at the same time using this cash flow, not eventually to buy other properties, but to stack sets when it's, maybe price drops. So it makes sense to add this other asset. And again, also on the other side of the equation, when you are a lender, if you receive as a collateral your house and a portion of Bitcoin, it will maybe enhance better interest rate because it will raise the quality of your collateral in the future. So I think this hybrid model works both sides. One as an owner, that you want to have Bitcoin to have higher return in the future, but at the same time for a potential lender that you would like to have this hybrid model because you know that real estate is good, but Bitcoin is better because it's you can have 24/7 liquidation. It's like you can sell it globally in a snapshot of a finger. It's very quick. It's equal in all parts, and any other counterparty will accept this. So I think, this hybrid model will be very, very suitable for both parties. And I think it's very, very important to monitor over the next decade how this play out.
I think the lack of counterparty risk and also the lack of needing to trust and not correlate it with any government or flag or political ideology, I think that's going to make it very, very attractive. Like right now to get a loan for fiat with your Bitcoin, they're charging like 13%, but it's really, they should be paying us to hold our Bitcoin because this is the pristine collateral and you're giving me trash, really.
Yeah.
So I expect those rates to go down as the world starts to realize this is the pristine collateral. This is the apex asset.
Yeah, 100%. And again, I want to see more of, optionalities on those lenders because as of today, we have, like, as you said, around 12, 13%. Like the loan to value is like max to 40%, which is okay because Bitcoin is still very volatile. So you don't get any, liquidation call. but only 1 year, maximum to 1 year. So I would like to see in the future, as you said, market is maturing around the idea of Bitcoin as a superior form of collateral. So we should see theoretically much lower interest rate and even a duration that is much longer than 1 year. I'm not saying maybe 30 years as a house is, I don't know, I don't see it feasible, but even 5 years would be amazing just to have this buffer of time to try to avoid any kind of short-term depression on the price. But again, much lower interest rate because it's far superior than real estate, it's far superior than even a stock for what I see. So maybe in few years we will have loans of 3-4 years at 7%, 6%, and then it will unlock billions or even trillions of value. Because why should I sell my Bitcoin? Why people should sell? You will crash down a big seller pressure because now you can use it in a different way and different flavors, and I think it would be the biggest catalyst potentially for Bitcoin.
For sure. Tell us about your writing, The Alternatives Courage.
Yeah,
your book.
Yeah, it's a collection of thoughts, I would say. So it started as like trying to collect my ideas on mainly on personal finance, then also on how to find alternative solution to to young people, because a lot of my generation is like a bit trapped. You need to study until 25 to university, then you need to go for a job for 40 years and then eventually go to retirement. But again, I think it's not sufficient anymore, because again, the inflation, the cost of living, cost of houses, everything is growing and costing much more than your increase in salary from the compensation of your company, of your day job. So I think every one of us needs to be open-minded to alternatives. For some, might be like 100% I go in the alternatives, the most risky one. But even for the most traditional and conservative, you should have a portion of it into some alternatives. That could be a second stream of income, that could be a side passion, that could be some investment skills. Or in my view, the easiest one is just to buy Bitcoin, is just to increase in a DCA fashion and put like, I don't know, $50 every week, every 100 every month, depending on each one of us, to create this alternative in a very slow pace without being too much extreme on it. And because this will unlock in the future more optionality for yourself, for your family, and be more stable, more financially secure. And eventually, if you are like 45 and you are like tired of your boss or your job, you might decide to follow a different path. So yeah, it's a bit of exploring alternatives, is a bit of trying to give my personal background and other people in the space. And yeah, I'm trying just to put all together those thoughts. It's still early stage, but I would love to put more time and eventually one day publish it in a form of a free ebook so that everyone can eventually, find it useful if it's...
You should. I'd buy it, definitely.
I will
Especially
send you
if it's free.
for free ebook. Yeah, I'm not pretending to be a writer or to be an author, but
Yeah.
I think the more experience you can share with people, and the more even way of say something in a different from different background, as we discussed before. You were
Yes.
not thinking about Italy going like the real estate that bad. Why? Because I know it because I'm living here. So, sharing
Right.
these ideas, it's enriching. So
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Talk to us about the Escape Velocity podcast.
Yeah, it's a new idea that I had with a friend of mine that we met together, fun enough, in Bangkok, in Thailand, at one of those, usual events that in Southeast Asia they took place. So like 3 days of events. Most of the time is not only Bitcoin, is mainly shitcoin or altcoin or other, blockchain, and AI projects. But I met this guy, which is 100% hardcore Bitcoiner, an Italian guy, and yes, we decided to start it. We start like few weeks ago, so it's brand new. But yeah, the idea is to explore together this concept of escape velocity for Bitcoin, which is like a physical concept out in which one object that goes outside the gravitational pull of a planet go forever without any additional, resource of energy because it escaped the pull of gravitational pull of a planet. So this is the idea of Bitcoin. Now Bitcoin has no longer this gravitational pull of, it's going to zero. It's a scam. Satoshi just woke up and sell everything. So, I think we surpassed this catastrophic scenarios, and now we are in the free space, and now it's just a matter of time that it keeps growing, it keeps attracting more capital. So we want to explore this idea in a form of weekly or maybe weekly contents together.
Do you think it's reached escape velocity? There's a lot of people who still think it's a scam. I mean, honestly, if you go outside of our bubble, I'd say 95% of people don't give a crap about Bitcoin. Honestly, let's just be honest.
That's true. But what I mean is that from a technological point of view and from a distribution point of view, I think it reached escape velocity in the sense that now we run more than 30,000 nodes globally. We have now companies adopting Bitcoin globally. We have now proven to be first a $10 billion asset class, then a $100 billion asset class, now 1 trillion, putting Bitcoin on the top 10 asset classes globally. I see still a vibrant community. And again, I fully understand what you say. The 95% are completely clueless, or they say, it's still a scam, it's going to zero. But they're simply late, and they didn't even spend more than 5 hours into trying to understand what's the fiat system first and what's the potential solution in Bitcoins. Even if we have like a catastrophic event of, countries putting together effort to try to ban Bitcoin or to try to remove mining operation or trying to shut down every single nodes, I think today in 2025, it's impossible to do it. You will spend immense amount of resource to maybe damage 2%, 3%, 5%. But then as we saw in 2021 with the China ban, if you do a coercive movement, people will even more so double down into Bitcoin, in my view. So in that case, China wanted to ban Bitcoin. What happened? Miners left China, relocate, and then you see the hash rate going X, 3X, 4X, because people want to secure this network, because people want to put their time and energy behind Bitcoin. So that's why I think as of today, we reach the first stage of escape velocity in which now it's impossible to stop on a global scale because of the feature of Bitcoin.
I agree. I mean, look, it has ETFs. This thing is not going to zero. Larry Fink is shilling Bitcoin, but most people don't even know who Larry Fink is. That's one of the things, right? So people are usually sheeple. They won't get it until someone tells them to get it, and then they'll get it. But speaking of ETFs and the financialization and the kind of suit and tying of Bitcoin, the Wall Streetification of Bitcoin, what's your top Bitcoin equity pick right now?
So I think it's a very new landscape because, again, the first one was, of course, a strategy doing in a pure financial play back in August 2020. But until 2023, I think also the board and also Michael Saylor didn't have fully in mind what they were doing. And so they started to really financialize themselves and using, MSTR as a financial vehicle to raise more capital to then now even offer preferred offerings and entering the fixed income market. I think, it's a brand new landscape. So it's very, ups, down. It's very hard to follow, a lot of news, a lot of FUD. So it's, you need to be very into it. So personally, again, I support 100% only Bitcoin. And I think it's the only thing that each one of us should study and buy. That's full statement. Then if you want to be, inside the equity space and you want to have a long term with potentiality to overperform Bitcoin over the long term, not 1 month, not 3 months, but over the medium to long term, I think a portion of MSTR should make sense in your portfolio allocation, alongside maybe, like some Mag 7 stock, some gold position, etc. So each one of us has different, risk reward profile. Each one of us has different needs for the investment. But again, if you want to play in a safer way, it's not safe because it's still super volatile MSTR, but I think it's the only one that proved to the marketplace that is solid, that is very liquid, that it can potentially overperform Bitcoin. Nothing is certain in the equity space, but it's the only one with all the characteristics that can overperform. All the other, like small cap, micro cap from some small jurisdiction, etc., those for me are the altcoin of this year. Meaning they can go up 10x in 3 days or in 2 weeks, and then they can even so collapse. So again, for me, this is not investment. This is only me watching from the outside and be cautious and try to tell to people on my audience on X that investing is one thing, speculating and short-term trading is another one, and I wouldn't classify those micro cap LBs as investments. That's my take. So back to your question, I would say only MSTR for me is very eligible for a portfolio in a small allocation, and even better for me is Bitcoin spot. That's my overall take on that.
What's your take on strategies inclusion into the S&P 500? Is it going to happen?
So as of today, all the criteria, the eligibility criteria has been met. So technically, in the next, I think in few days, I think this Friday, the commission will announce the new companies coming inside the S&P index and some companies that, of course, needs to go out. I'm pretty sure, not 100%, but I'm very confident that they won't be included MSTR at this round. In my view, eventually they will get included because we already have a Coinbase, which is a crypto and Bitcoin equity. It's already inside the S&P index. We have Block, which is doing payments, process payment, etc., but is also very active into mining Bitcoin, and they have a portion of their balance sheet into Bitcoin, and Block is already in the S&P 500. So MSTR will get included. My point is probably we need to wait few more meetings. Maybe 2026. I don't know. Also Tesla got delayed. Other companies got delayed. And I understand why, because S&P is like the global benchmark. So if I am in the committee, if I am 65, and if I, being exposed to TradFi for 40 years, MSTR is not something that I would like to touch. It's not something that I would like to include, and as a logical extent, being in portfolio of millions and millions of Americans or millions and millions of investors globally. So I think cautious is okay, but eventually they will get included. My guess, maybe early 2026. But it's only speculation, Khalid. I don't have the crystal ball, so I don't know.
Right. All of us are speculating. My thing is that it's a new type of company. It's a totally new paradigm. It's a paradigm shift. They're definitely not getting in this time. Come on, guys. Let's be serious. Maybe like a non-zero chance, but it's like closer to zero, very close to zero. Maybe like a 0.1% chance, because they don't understand it. Quite frankly, Marco, they don't understand. And first you have to understand, truly understand what Bitcoin is here to do and will do. And you have to see that, really see it, to even begin to understand what MSTR is doing. And the fact that FASB came around with the fair accounting rules and all of that stuff, now they can account for the increase in their assets as revenue or counted on their balance sheet, is huge. But still, people don't get it. I talk to a lot of TradeFi guys. They just don't get it, right? And, refinancing, or like, let's say, issuing these preferreds to pay for dividends and other financial issuance, they don't get, it sounds like a Ponzi to them, when that's what you're doing in real estate anyway. That's You're refinancing and you're
Yeah,
remortgaging
it's
and you're
normal.
doing all these financial kind of gimmicks. But that's why you and I both say nothing else is Bitcoin and cold storage, right? This is kind of like the fiat world game that I would play because it's based solely and foundationally on Bitcoin, but in the traditional fiat world games, right? So remember, kids, boys and girls back home, nothing else is Bitcoin and cold storage. But if, you're real into, I say Bitcoin is your savings and my MSTR is my investments or, my speculative gamble, right? So did you want to throw something in there?
Yeah, no, it's a great take. As you said, the distinction between Bitcoin as a superior saving technologies that will probably outperform gold and all the other adjusted risk adjusted metrics. So Bitcoin is savings, and the best way to have it is first in cold storage, as you said. Maybe for like elderly or for like some retirement, etc. Could also make sense the spot ETF. So I see a very valuable
ETF.
case for the ETFs. It's very, very, easy. You just say to your a financial advisor to whatever to buy this one, and it's not Bitcoin. We know that it's not physical, real satoshis inside this promise that you have with BlackRock, with Fidelity, with whatever. But for a big chunk of population, it's much easier. So it makes sense and it's very valuable. And then, as you said, if you want to have like some speculation, some more trading, because it's legit to have it. If you want to even try to overperform Bitcoin, which again is very hard, but it's something that people might want to do it. I think all in all, MSTR it makes sense because, as you said, it's the only pure player now with scale in the biggest financial market that is the US, and is launched a new ecosystem by itself. Michael Saylor and the team of strategy, by their own, they launched a total new industry, and again, they are the apex of this new movement. And again, if you are a true Bitcoiner and if you want to speculate or if you want to trade or you like equities, I think MSTR makes sense, but it's not Bitcoin. It's not correlated 100% with Bitcoin. If Bitcoin goes 2x, not necessarily MicroStrategy needs to go mandatory X or 4x, because correlation is a big part, but it's not 100%. And again, it's an equity, so you have all the risk associated with equity. You have fraud, you can have bankruptcy, you can have losing trust in the management team, you can have some financial gimmick, as you said, something that is not disclosed, you can have plenty of stuff. If you have Bitcoin in your cold storage, you don't care. So it's far
People
superior.
don't understand that, Marco,
No, they don't.
that lack of headaches and like real world problems that, these things Saylor has lined out on slides, but people don't get it. When you remove all of that, plus it's outperforming, that compounds to me in just a better life, like less stress, less to think about, Bitcoin solved all your financial wizardry problems already. Just invest in Bitcoin. But, we're going to keep it moving. And I really want to know, Marco, what's the Bitcoin thermometer and why do you update it weekly?
Yeah, Khalif, I think we are approaching. So maybe, if we still have a bit more time, I would like also to know your opinion about this. But in my view, the traditional 4-year cycle is, we need still to wait probably a few more months, probably 2026, to be more clear about it. But I think it's kindly over, in the sense that I think the dynamics that we experienced in 2013, in 2017, and even in 2020, 2021 are no longer effective or are very muted compared to the new market landscape that we had since the ETFs launched, since the big companies adopting Bitcoin in 2024 on. So my weekly thermometer is just to give like a bunch of indicators that I personally follow. And I try to do an update weekly to see, okay, look, Bitcoin, this Bitcoin gold ratio now is 33. Last week was 31. So we are getting a bit hot in the commodity ratio. So it's an information that you can get there. Then my second one is MSTR over IBIT. Are we still trading in the range of 5 to 9, or we go below, or we go higher? If we go below, in my view, might be a good entry point if you believe in MSTR. If we are trending like 8 or 9, which is historically the like red zone, maybe it's better to rotate out from MicroStrategy into Bitcoin. So my idea is to have this kind of 10, 12 indicator, mostly in Bitcoin, some in macro and some in altcoin, because again, also the altcoin will have an impact on Bitcoin, and just give an update so that people might see it if they found it useful. And it's mainly for me to have this weekly, see all these indicators that I track and see, look, oh my gosh, now it's already 40 on the ratio with gold. Like a few weeks ago, we were like, I don't know, at 30. So in my view, it started to be, okay, that's interesting. Maybe we are entering some kind of euphoria. So I use it to navigate my next months into the market. And I would like to know from you, Khalif, if you think the 4-year cycle is still full in place, or you feel some cracks into this theory.
I feel cracks. It's just too many tailwinds. It's too much bullish news that, I mean, if this was 2017 and we had all this bullish news, it would be the number one story in the world. It would be, people would be losing their minds. We've not felt any euphoria like 2017 since even 2020, 21, 22. Nothing like 2017. I was there for it. And there's just, the ETFs, the FASB rules, the now banks can custody. Now we have Larry Fink shilling portfolios. Now K retirement portfolios can have this. Now we have all the Bitcoin leverage plays like MSTR just coming more and more. Before 5 years, there was only one. Now there's 180, I believe, or something like that. Twice as many as last year. So it's just doubling, and people will just continue to see this. And that's gobbling up the supply. It's gobbling. We've never seen such a scarce, hard supply like this. Honestly, I have some fears that there is some paper Bitcoin shenanigans happening under the surface, because where is all this happening? It is a $2 trillion market, and, even like large buys, $20 billion buys are being just gobbled up, right? They're being gobbled up, but at what point does this thing just like a beach ball under the water? When does it just pop? And just how long can you hold this beach ball underwater? Like it feels a little unnatural. And maybe that has to do with the futures market, which is why they allowed the futures market so early on. If you remember, they allowed futures Bitcoin way before spot Bitcoin.
That's a great
CBO. And I think they did that to pop the bubble intentionally, because like it just took like a month or two after that happened, and it was like lights out for Bitcoin, and we went into the bear market. So I feel there's some behind the scenes paper shenanigans with Bitcoin, but the nature of Bitcoin itself is that you can't hold this beach ball under the water for long like you can do with gold and silver and play those manipulative games. Eventually, this thing is just going to take off, because we're like already all-time low on exchanges. And that's my overly windy take on that. What do you think? You think paper shenanigans are happening?
Yeah, I think for sure we have some kind or some portion of it, especially with all the exchanges now are as you said, they have low in terms of total Bitcoin balances, but still they moves the majority of, because even Michael Saylor on most of the ETFs trade with Coinbase. So Coinbase has 1.3 million, I think, Bitcoin for all behalf of all the customers, etc. So again, Coinbase alone is like, I don't know, 7%, 6% of the total supply. So for sure they can do some kind of wizardry behind the scene. Some of those new Bitcoin equities, some of them buy new Bitcoin for sure, but some of them, they just do swap. They do the swap in between Bitcoin and shares. So there is no actual buying of new Bitcoin. It's a swap of, I give you shares if you gave me Bitcoin. So it's like you put on the balance sheet of a company Bitcoin, but the Bitcoin was already bought. It's not a new buying pressure. So you see, we have so many things moving on. And as you said, I was not thinking deeply about this, but you're right about they accepted first the derivatives market, the future ETFs rather than the spot one. Why? Because as you said, probably they wanted to pressure and to keep price down. so that once there will be the new ETF in February of 2024, the price was still in a kind of reduced pressure so that they can enter in a lower price. So again, now with Wall Street and the financial sharks in the game, of course, we have to expect all the possible outcomes, and price suppression is one of those. And I'm not very surprised about it. But I also think that if we want to scale it up to 10 trillion, 20 trillion, 50 trillion asset class, I think retail alone are not enough. I think some corporation alone are not enough. And we need this, sparkle of Bitcoin entering the traditional finance, this Bitcoin entering banking system. We need to use this Trojan horse inside these massive markets in order to scale it up. So I think it's like a hard pill to swallow, but it's something that we have to do it if we want to foresee something bigger. So that's my take. And again, it's an open protocol. Your friends, but also your enemy can use it. And that's the sacred thing about Bitcoin. You cannot change because you don't like Larry Fink, or you cannot change because you don't like a government, North Korea, buying it. Because if you start to enter this conversation, you risk that Bitcoin will become a fiat derivatives, and it's something that we cannot allow. So we need to accept that Putin buys it, that North Korea buys it, that the cartel buys it, or that BlackRock buys it, because it's an open, neutral monetary network. And then people needs to be and to behave in the right way, but the technology is there and we cannot affect it. I think it's a natural process and we cannot do much about it. And we just need to hodl, take time, hodl as much as possible, DCA as much as possible. And that's my overall take.
All right. Good one. All right. Now we're going to wrap up. But Marco, we've come to the time of the show that we like to call the lightning round. Okay. Answers are lightning fast and all answers are final.
I feel the pressure.
You should feel the pressure. It's getting hot in here. Okay. Now, remember, these are fast answers. So you just got to give me some quick answers. All right. Okay. Red September curse. Buy the dip or bail out now?
Buy the dip.
Buy the dip. I agree. Next question, BTC sliding to 100K, bear trap or super cycle killer?
I think it's a bear trap.
It's a bear trap. Yeah. So that's in line with buy the dip. Nothing stops this train, right?
Yeah.
Okay. MSTR, S&P dreams, overhyped bubble or genius play?
I'm biased on that one. I would say genius play.
Okay. Give me a quick answer now, Marco. Will they 61 MSTR?
Unrealistic.
Unrealistic. Okay. Really quick, why?
I don't know. I think it will be very, very bad for the US as a general, be the freedom of free market, free everything, and, having this kind of approach for a company and all the shareholders of the company, because it's not only, Saylor, it's millions of people behind it that invests in the company. Having this kind of privatization, from privatization to get it public from the state, I don't see it feasible for me. For me, it's a no. It's an over, fad bubble. I would say it's a no.
Okay. Next question. Bitcoin dominance returning. Altcoins dead forever?
No, I think altcoin will resurge, but it will be a muted version of the altcoin that we won't see in the past, like everything going up on each coins. No. Dominance will probably stay and even go higher than 60% in my view.
Fair enough. Next question, Fed rate cuts, BTC moonshot or total dud? Total dud.
Unless we see 100 basis point cuts, if it's 25 or if it's gradual, I don't see any particular euphoria or just, I think it's
steady
kind
grind
of
up maybe. Okay. You kind of touched on this, institutional adoption or is it real revolution or is it a fiat trap?
This one can be a fiat trap. They just want to maximize or to use it as maybe also to get some political votes like we saw for Trump. I don't know how much Trump understands about Bitcoin. Maybe the people around him, yes, but him, I'm not sure. He just used it to take millions and millions of votes and do promises because that's what politicians do. And actually, it's fiat mentality for me.
Next question. Gold undervalued. Dump BTC for the yellow metal
Maybe
Oof.
today might make sense in a very short time, but I think in 6 months, 1 year or more, no, do the other way around. Dump gold and buy Bitcoin.
Yeah. Next question. Italian Bitcoiners ready for EU ban hammer?
I think most of Italian or European have no clue about Bitcoin in first place, or CBDC, or this everything. So the smart people, yes, they already flee in Lugano, in Dubai, or somewhere else. For most, probably they will get trapped into a system that won't allow much freedom and much self-sovereignty about their own money.
Okay. And probably the most important question today is, do you take seriously the pizza in America? Is Chicago deep dish a real pizza?
I've never been to the US. I hope to do it soon, but I think pineapple on pizza or Chicago pizza are not Italian way of doing pizza. But again, you can do pizza whatever you like. If it's successful and if American love Chicago pizza or pineapple, feel free to do it. I don't get
The
mad.
audience. Hey, we love the Italian accent. Whatever you like, whatever you like.
Whatever you like, Arif.
I
Whatever you
like
like.
whatever you like. Okay. All right. I liked it. And ladies and gentlemen, that was the lightning round with Marco. Marco, you hang on right now. I'm going to say farewell to the audience, but you hang on. I got something for you. Everybody listening right now, please like and subscribe. And remember, Real Hard Money is here. Tell your friends. I got a podcast. They need to listen to it. This is so we spread this message all around the world. Marco, please tell them where they could find you and what you're up to.
Yeah, Khalif. So first of all, thank you so much for hosting me. We had a very nice conversation. Thanks a lot. And yeah, for the audience, I'm mainly active on X. So you can find me. My handle on X is Battistoshi93. And I just published some research over there, some commentary, some videos. So yeah, only on X, easy.
Okay, only on X, not Noster?
I have it, but I don't know. I'm still thinking that it's not really good traction over there, and I just wanted to first focus on my X, and then eventually also do some more publishing on Noster. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Hard Money fam, follow him on X and follow me on X. And also I'm on Noster, Real Hard Money, primal.com/Real Hard Money. Check me out. You're listening to the Real Hard Money podcast. We'll catch you next time. Thanks.